Is it even possible in this crazy economy to live off of one income? Let's talk about this today. I know that I've talked about this before, but if you are just joining me for this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if you enjoy the content that I'm talking about today. And if you want to see more, click that subscribe button. So I've had a lot of people tell me that living off of one income is impossible. It is not a feasible option unless you are a very rich or entitled or privileged person. And that is the only way that you are able to live off of one income exclusively. I'm here to say I don't think that's the case. I graduated with a degree in financial planning. So we studied economics, the economy, we studied personal finance, and a lot of what I did throughout my several years in school was I actually got to financially coach people in their finances. I also did this for a little bit after college as well. Here's the deal. What so many people don't realize is living off of one income, in many cases, for many people, this is not to say for all people, but for many people, it does require a vast majority of sacrifice. And I know that that's probably not what you want to hear. You're just like, I just want to live off one income and stay home with my kids and like have it be all fine and feel like we're just living this normal, natural life. And I'm here to say it might be the case for you, depending on how much your husband makes, depending on how much you eat out, like a lot of different factors, depending on your lifestyle. But for many, it's going to require some sacrifice. It's going to require some upfront hard work if you want to make that happen. So if you're a young lady in here, you aren't married yet, maybe you're single or you are just married, I would encourage you, number one, listen to this, take this down, be saving right now, be practicing frugal skills. Here's the deal. If you marry a guy who makes tons of money and you can just buy clothes all the time and do whatever you want all the time with that money, that's fantastic. Kudos to you. Congratulations. Like, I think that's wonderful. But for many people, that's not necessarily going to be the case. And for many people, it might be the case later on in your marriage and in your life, but maybe that's not going to be the case for the first couple of years, where you might have to live a little bit more frugally and be a little bit more conscientious. And so one skill to really, really have before you get married or when you're just starting out is to learn how to be super frugal with what you're spending. And honestly, if you learn that and prioritize saving right now, by the time you do get married, or if you are married, by the time you do have kids, you will have this down pat. You will feel prepared and ready to live off of one income. And if you're currently married, I would encourage you, start living off one income even if you have two. Save that second income, use it to pay down debt, but just do whatever you can to like have all of your expenses, even try to save as much as you can off of all of one income. So when I say what is living off one income, I'm saying like you're making at least the minimum debt payments off of the one income. You're giving off of one income. You're paying for all of your expenses, all the utilities, all of that type of stuff off of one income. If you can do that, then you'll be set up for the rest of time. You won't necessarily have to worry because you'll be practicing that already. So by the time you do have a baby, you can seamlessly hop out of your job or move to part-time or whatever you want to do in that case, and you won't have to worry about it. Now, for you ladies who haven't been living off of one income, maybe you've had two incomes for a while and you've been like living this life of two incomes and you're trying to transition to one income because you're like, I do want to stay home with my kids. Like, I don't want these other people to be the primary caretakers in my baby's lives. You know, you might not realize that until you have kids yourself. Many people don't. Many women don't. And then they have that baby themselves and they're like, I don't want to leave my baby with anyone else but myself. And it's not because they're paranoid about other people. It's just they genuinely enjoy their own children. And it's probably very different from anything that anyone's ever experienced that they would feel. So, if you're looking to transition to one income, I would encourage you, it is absolutely possible. There's a lot of people who live off one income, but it does require a lot of sacrifice. And I don't just mean like not going and getting your favorite Starbucks drink anymore. I think for some people, it might mean that they have to try to transition to some sort of part-time job, at least for a little while, if you're trying to like pay down debt. Because for some people, they have so much in overhead debt, they have so much in their car payments and in their house payments and all of this stuff, that it's going to be a process of transitioning, but it is possible. Now, I would say for a lot of people, this might mean selling your house, moving to a smaller house, or even just moving into an apartment. And women have done this. Like, there's been accountants who they brought in most of the money of the family. They sold their huge house. They moved into a tiny home or an apartment, and they ended up loving their life there because they were home with the baby that they so wanted to be with their children, rather than just in this hustle culture. But it does come with some external sacrifices. So it may mean trying to sell the cars that you have, or at least paying them down, so that way you don't have to worry about a car payment for years and years. Because listen, think about this. If you're paying a lot less for your mortgage, if you're, diminishing your car payment or not paying anything at all for your cars, and if you are really focusing on those bigger items in your expenses, when you get that smaller home or a small apartment, your utilities are going to go down too. So it's going to help reduce a lot of other expenses as well. But when you do that, you're cutting a huge portion of what's going out each month. Also, if you're paying for daycare, once you do come home, that's a cost that you can cut out. And if you do come home and you don't have your income anymore, you don't then have to pay taxes on it. So that's about a good percentage point, depending on how much you're making. The finances can vary, but for a lot of women, even just cutting out their income, they end up still having enough to live, because with just their husband's income, they actually get more of their taxes back than what they thought. So that's able to go into savings or whatever. I think an important point to note here is that if you want to live off of one income, it does not mean necessarily that you have to live this very frugal life forever and ever and ever, amen. I think for some people, depending on what their husbands make and depending on their situation, they might have to live a lot more frugally than others for a lot longer. That's just the case for some people. In other cases, other women might not have to. It might be that your husband eventually gets a raise at his job and then you have more to save. Say you're trying to move to a bigger, better house. You're in an apartment for a little bit and you're like, okay, right now while they're young, we'll be in this apartment. That's fine. But that may change and your husband may get a raise, or he might, really try to bring in extra money to help supplement. And you might be able then to save up the money to buy back the house that you want to have, or, to buy a fancy car that you want to have. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're stuck in this life forever. Maybe you'll find a part-time job online. Maybe you'll start your own business. I mean, a lot of women really do become creative once they do have this transition. And a lot of men will become creative too. And in a lot of cases, really, men are naturally built to desire to provide. And so if they notice some sort of discrepancy or a way that they can, make more money to be able to save that up for something to increase the quality of your lifestyle, in a lot of cases, they will step up to that plate, and just naturally they will want to do that for their family. At the end of the day, it is possible to live off of one income. I know that it can be so hard, and there's probably a lot of sacrifices that a lot of people make. They sell their homes, they move into trailers, Maybe they're moving into an RV and just like traveling across the country. I have seen people do that, but they've done that so that way they've been able to prioritize their family over the work that they do. They don't want to be stuck in a job for 8 hours a day when their children are with someone else, being taught by someone else all the time. And so if that is something that you value, like I said, this possibility can be reached. It might take some hard work. It might take some upfront work. For instance, for my husband and I've been working since we got married. And before that, honestly, I worked and I saved a ton of money. I mean, a ton for what I was making. I wasn't making much at the time because it was just during like college and high school and stuff. But I did save my money so that way in the future, I would not have to be able to continue working. There would be enough saved to the point where maybe we could buy a house if we wanted to, or maybe we could, do what we wanted to do into the future, and that we could still like keep working away at that, even living off of one income, and even if it's a smaller income. Once again, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed this content and click that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching.